Evening, everyone. It's as always, it's wonderful to see you all here. Thank you for taking the time. And as promised, I'm going to talk about the fifth remembrance. We've been reflecting on the five remembrances, and the fifth one is, my actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. I think we've said quite a bit actually about how much we lose in the first four remembrances. We grow old, we become ill, we die. We can't escape those things. We can't escape losing everything and everyone who is dear to us and whom we love. But it seems to me that with the fifth remembrance, after having lost everything, this remembrance throws us a bone, something good or something we're allowed to have, or maybe we could call it our birthright. So what is it that's been given to us in this remembrance? To me, this fifth remembrance refers back to what I've tried to convey is the most important thing, and perhaps the only thing that we really need to remember about karma. So this remembrance is about karma. And that important thing to remember about karma, to my mind, is that in this very present moment, right now, right here, we have choices. We can choose to think, speak, and act in ways that decrease suffering and therefore increase good karma for ourselves and for all beings. Or we can choose to think, speak, and act in ways that increase suffering and therefore increase bad karma for ourselves and all beings. And I say all beings because none of our actions are accomplished in a vacuum. The one great truth is that we are interdependent. Yet it is only we, or me, who are owners of actions and their consequences. Maybe that's another one of those Zen paradoxes. And yet we are in this very time and place, here and now, because of myriad causes and conditions, because of everyone we know, because of all that exists. So, yet, our actions create consequences for ourselves and for all that exists. What has been given to us is these consequences. That's what has been given to us by the fifth remembrance. But they actually haven't been given. We have produced them. So only we are to blame. Or a better way of saying it would be, only we are responsible. So that's one direction that this remembrance points in, towards things we've been talking about related to karma. And the other direction, or another direction that it points is equanimity. Now, many of you will know that equanimity is one of the four Brahma Viharas. Brahma Vihara means divine abode. So the four divine abodes, or the four immeasurable minds. And these are called immeasurable minds because they are boundless. We can't ever get to the end of them. We can't ever get to the end of practicing and training with them. Thich Nhat Hanh calls them the four aspects of love. And I want to go through them quickly with you because what I want to point to is the phrases that we're taught to recite when we do formal practice with these four immeasurable minds. So They're loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, and equanimity. And you can practice these all the time, all day long. But you can also practice them by sitting down in formal meditation and reciting certain phrases that are taught. And I want to give you a small sample of some of those phrases. So to cultivate loving kindness, or sometimes it's called loving friendliness, we say things to ourselves like, may all beings be well and happy. May all beings be free from suffering. May no harm come to them. May all beings live with ease. Okay, so that's loving kindness. To cultivate compassion, we recite phrases like, may you be free from suffering. May you be accepting of pain and sorrow. May you find peace. Loving kindness and compassion are kind of close together. Sympathetic joy, we recite, may your happiness and good fortune not leave you. May your good fortune continue. May whatever you have gained not be lost. Now, equanimity, the last one, is an interesting one because the phrase to recite when formally practicing equanimity is, all beings are owners of their own karma. Their happiness and unhappiness depend on their actions, not on my wishes for them. So all beings are owners of their own karma is really a restatement of the fifth remembrance. And put this way, to me anyway, it sounds harsh, not like a bone at all, but in fact, it comes from deep kindness and fundamental understanding of what the Buddha taught. It's true, after all. All beings are owners of their own karma, and their happiness and unhappiness depend on their actions and not my wishes for them. So it's, first of all, towards ourselves, the kindness that this expresses towards ourselves is that we can't erase another's karmic consequences, so we can leave off trying. It's a kindness towards others because we're holding them in the reality of what is, offering the teaching that we, all of us, ignore at our peril. No matter how much loving kindness we offer to others, we can't fix their lives, make them okay. So we may as well relax and be at ease with whatever is. Now, that way of putting it sounds a little harsh too, but let me go on. This phrase really strikes me, all beings are owners of their own karma, as this practice for cultivating equanimity. And it points me towards reflecting on what equanimity is. What are we meaning when we use that word? The word itself actually is related to the word equal. They have the same root. So equanimity can mean responding to all people, events, and everything around us equally, not preferring one to another. It's a tall order. It also has to do with balance and stability of mind, with accepting all that is and rejecting nothing, peaceably, without clinging, without aversion or reactivity, staying in the center of stillness, which can be found under any conditions, even under conditions of radical impermanence. It means holding everything closely, with care, with joy, intimately. I would say with love. And that really equanimity is what true love is, opposed to I love hot dogs love. Equanimity is what true love is. And that sentence, all beings are owners of their own karma, is meant to support this. It's not meant, and I think we need to be clear about this, it's not meant to cultivate indifference, as in, well, there's nothing I can do about it, so who cares? It actually points to a radical and lively acceptance of what is. So 2 Mondays ago, when we were all together online, I told you that I had been to Green Gulch Farm the day before. Green Gulch Farm, which is one of the three branches of San Francisco Zen Center, Tassajara, the city center, and Green Gulch Farm, which is in Marin. And it is partly a farm. They grow vegetables there and also lots and lots of flowers. And it was kind of a fluke that I went. Some of my neighbors were going and invited me to go along, and so I did. And it happened that Kathy Fisher was giving the Dharma talk. And I love Kathy Fisher. She's the wife of Norman Fisher, who we've read and discussed in the past in this group, and who many of us dearly love. And Kathy Fisher is equally lovable, and they're actually quite different, but they're both wonderful. So I was really delighted that I was going to get to hear this Dharma talk by Kathy Fisher in person. And I was sitting in the first row of chairs, so I had a full-on view of her. It was terrific. Anyway, during the questions and answers after the talk, Kathy remarked, and the talk was a good talk, but she remarked that she had come to the point where she realized that really it's all about love. And I was like, yes. I mean, I had to really restrain myself not to do that in public. And, because I've been preaching this, right? Maybe ad nauseum for some of you. So I was really excited because I'd found a compatriot. Anyway, afterwards, there was tea and cookies outside. And I was standing out there talking to someone when I realized that Kathy was standing right next to me. And I was really delighted because I could say something to her. So I turned to her and greeted her, terribly enthusiastically, and then had to apologize because, of course, she doesn't know me from Adam. But I told her that I'd come to the same conclusion about love. Really our practice is about love. And how do we cultivate love? And she said something very interesting. She said that she was beginning to think that when translations were originally being made in the West of Buddhist texts from Asia, that they were made by academics and scholars. And academics and scholars can't use a word like love because it's too mushy. So they picked other words. And so they translated shunyata as emptiness, when really it should be translated as love. And I have to tell you, I was gobsmacked. I mean, my jaw was on the ground. I was like, you're kidding. Emptiness, shunyata, love? Really? and, and, I was kind of stopped in my tracks. And it's possible. It's one of the most profound things I've heard in my whole life in Buddhism. I don't know, and maybe I exaggerate, but anyway, I have been since then giving this, some thought, and what came to me, I had to kind of curtail the conversation. We had a little more backing and forthing, but I had to move on because there are other people who wanted to talk to her. And I didn't feel like I could monopolize her on this one. But in any case, I moved on. I've been thinking about that. And so I want to mention a little bit of what I've been thinking about. And I hope that, to me, this is connected to this fifth remembrance, and I hope I can make that visible. But anyway, when we see things for what they truly are, that is, as not having a separate, substantial self unchanging, separate, substantial self. So when we see things for what they truly are, and that they are never what we actually see, that they are something that lies behind or before maybe all our ideas and opinions and filters and screens and preconceptions and conditioning, etc., etc., etc. That is when we are truly loving them. So that's one of the connections between emptiness and love. And of course, emptiness points to interconnection, the dependence of everything on causes and conditions, and I always cite this little piece of writing by Thich Nhat Hanh on a piece of paper and how it's connected to the whole universe. And how well he describes that level of interrelatedness that we have, and how everything is contained in this piece of paper, from the tree to the sun to the earth to the logger's parents, yada, on and on. So what could this possibly be but what love is? Now, another aspect of emptiness that maybe we talk about a little less, but that I think is really important, is that it's pointing to the insubstantiality of ourselves and of all things. And nothing's excluded from that. Every single thing is insubstantial, almost in the sense of being made out of space rather than being solid. And I think that when we truly experience, have a really deep experience of how we change in every nanosecond, and that everything changes faster than we can comprehend, we begin to get a taste of this insubstantiality. And sometimes some people experience their bodies as actually insubstantial, like air. This could be part of a religious experience, or a minor religious experience, if you will, but anyway, there's this experience of the body as being like air, insubstantial, even less substantial than air, almost like it's nothing. And this is how we actually are. And my favorite, you've heard me say this before, I'm sorry, but my favorite illustration of this is that if you took all the space out of planet Earth, it would be the size of a basketball. I just find that phenomenal. There's so much space in every atom that if you took all the space out of the planet Earth, it would be the size of a basketball. We truly are insubstantial. And what's important, actually, is that we not hold on to not even one of these nanoseconds, because they pass. They pass, they pass, they pass. And this is an ultimate act of love, this letting go of every nanosecond. It brings me back to letting go of the ground on which we stand. That there is no ground on which we stand, and instead to flow in the river of life. And you may remember, those of you who were here two Mondays ago, that Kim mentioned this. He mentioned, that the fifth remembrance, my actions are the ground upon which I stand. He said, well, and Kim, I hope I'm not misquoting you. You can correct me. There is no ground that we stand on, and that he had changed the line for his own benefit to my actions are the river in which I flow. And I just felt very resonant with what Kim was saying. That made perfect sense to me. So my actions can't be the ground upon which I stand. And I think it's important, on the one hand, to recognize this, because the fifth remembrance does offer us a place to stand. And in some sense, we need that. We need places to stand, and we create them constantly, all day long. But ultimately, that place to stand isn't there. So in what sense are our actions our only true belongings? And can we even hold on to these, to our actions? Can we hold on to their consequences? And for me, the answer is no, we can't. And yet we can't escape those consequences. So the Buddha says in the Dhammapada, and the Dhammapada is considered the most ancient Buddhist text, the first instance in which the Buddha's teachings were written down. And it's a series of verses. And he says, the mind is the forerunner of all things. If we think, speak, or act with an unwholesome mind, suffering will follow us as the wheels of the cart follow the ox. Mind is the forerunner of all things. If we think, speak, or act with a wholesome mind, happiness will follow as your shadow follows you without hurting. We can't escape the consequences of our actions. That's one part of what he's saying, but what he's really saying is mind is everything. What you think, you become. And this is a beautiful reiteration of the law of karma. And it's a beautiful reiteration of the truth of the fifth remembrance. So can we rock with equanimity? And thank you. I'm going to stop there. And if I haven't made connections clearly, you can ask me about them. But otherwise, I'm very interested in any thoughts you have. So I just want to repeat my last sentence because I understand it got eliminated from the recording. I said, can we ride the waves, the flow, with equanimity and with a mind and also a heart and a body that are full of love? Thank you.